Um, Good question. Probably, I mean, there aren't many women artists in Mexico that stand out from the mid-20th century. So, I mean, obviously she's kind of one of very few artists. And I think her story was kind of made really popular in the 21st century by movies with who's in Selma Hayek is, you know, she plays Frida in one of those like blockbuster films. So I think what's really attractive about Frida is just how transgressive she is, how she was, you know, painting things that were really kind of socially stigmatic in the 1950s, and they're still really powerful images, you know, like you said, they're really gross. That's something that she really wanted to evoke with her artwork. The fact that she was doing things that other women weren't, that it was, you know, she was making political statements, you know, the painting with the fetus, like you said, that wasn't something that you could talk about openly in public, especially in the 1950s. Even still, you know, it's still kind of taboo to discuss abortion or a miscarriage. Also, she had a lot of things that were recurrent in all of her art, like the unibrow. You know, whenever somebody says Frida Kahlo, they think one, you know, eyebrow. And so it's really unique about her. I don't know, I think, I mean, I'm not an art historian, but you know, she seems to be pretty iconic for that one thing. I think both of those cases created a lot of pain for her, which are really evident in her artwork. You know, this feeling of like loss and otherness, and having a body that isn't fully functional, and that was something that she looked at, like in the two Fridas. You know, how there's blood on the dress, and it's representative of like loss and open wounds. And I think to some extent her wounds never healed. Like, she constantly carried this air of sadness due to the pain inflicted on her by the bus incident and the polio. I can't say that Frida actually wanted to have children. It's one thing to be able to have children and to choose not to, but to not even make that choice, I think, is what Frida was most sorry about. You know, the fact that even if she had said, because I don't think any of her images you know, discuss motherhood or like a maternal instinct within her. I think if anything that was kind of absent. But I don't know. I mean, that's a really good question. I think it was just the idea that she couldn't even choose not to have kids that was made her, I don't know, hurt more as a woman. Surreal. Provocative, colorful, how do I say, mestizo, or like the idea of a fusion of lots of things. Like there's usually a duality involved. So like in two Fridas, there's two different women to this one body. And there's also a lot of mixed motifs, indigenous motifs. So like using images and patterns that the indigenous used from Mexico's racial or historical background, you know, mixing those two to create this mestizo in paint. I don't know enough, but I think I would consider the two Fridas. Just because it was her first big painting, but I think that's the one that she's most known for. But I don't know all of her, you know, all the body of her art. So I can only imagine what it's like to be married to Diego Rivera. I mean, the stories behind him are incredulous. You know, I told you I read that novel about a woman that he left behind. He had so many bastard children just leaving, using and abusing women. And I think he and Frida married and divorced at least once. I mean, I don't know that they technically got divorced, but just this, he couldn't stay put. He couldn't. There was no. I don't know that there was ever a whole lot of romance between them. So how did their marriage or their relationship impact her? She lived in his shadow most of her life, too. I mean, she wasn't really known for her art until after she was dead. She was always known as Diego Rivera's wife. Yeah. Which, as feminists today, like to point out, that's not a way to identify. My identity is not based on my husband. So I think she suffered a lot from that, too.